Hello everyone, I'm Long from Group 9. Now I will represent you about Chapter 16, Alternative Evaluation and Selection. So now I will discuss about how actual consumer choice often differs from rational choice theory. There are three assumptions which are opposite to three reality to consumers. So the first assumption that the consumers seek one optimal solution to a problem and choose on that basis. But the reality is the consumers have all sorts of meta goals that are different from this. So the actually consumer does not seek one optimal, they seek many of them for optimal solution and not for only one problem and for many problems. And they want and they choose on based on many factors such as price and functional or the brand also. So the second assumption, the consumers have the skill and motivation to find optimal solution. Actually, the consumer often lack both the skill or motivation to do so. They don't have time as effort to do such to find the optimal solution. So they tend to choose the product which is have which has low price and the function and the best function. Uh, it maybe have some effect on the brands also and the place they buy it. So the third assumption, the optimal solution does not change as a function of situation factors such as time ratio, tax definition, or competitive context. Actually, the context effects are common. So this means the optimal solution will be changed as a function of situational factors such as time, ratio, task definition, or competitive context. So that's all my part. Thank you for listening.
Hello everybody, my name is Kans. At the beginning of chapter 16, my teammate Mr. Longs discussed consumer choice and the type of choice processes. In the second part, I would like to summarize and present to all of you more details precisely three general types of consumer choice processes. So what are these? Firstly, affective choice, next attitude-based choice, and finally attribute-based choice. Now have a look at each of them with me. Initially, affective choices tend to be more holistic in nature. The evaluation is now often based on exclusively or primarily on the immediate emotional response to the product or service. Consumer use of affective choice are affected by underlying purchase motive. So purchasing motive separated from two categories, consumatory motive and instrumental motive. Each of them has a different function and appropriate to different situation of the buyers. But in reality, consumatory motive most likely than instrumental motive wise. Consumatory motive underlie behaviors that intrinsically rewarding to individual involved. It emerges when a buyer focuses on the appearance of the product, which makes his or her more fashionable and trendy during consumption. For example, at the local store, when you go into the shopping mall or local store and you are trying to seek a camera for your travel on other purposes, and you identify that there are two brands with the same function and the same price. How could you deal with this situation? Of course, the one makes you great impression. You spend money on that because you are affected by consumatory motive. And how about instrumental motive? Instrumental motive for the people who enjoy that's Bache motive. They just focuses on the high quality products. They want everything must be at the best, and they will wish to have the product they can use in the long run, but not the short runs, because that is the instrumental motive, and this is the less attractive than the first ones. And the second is the attitude based choice. Attitude based choice, similarly to the affective choice, also use emotion and the feeling to make decision on the products. They refer to use of the general attitude, summary, impression, institution, or heuristics. No attribute by attribute comparison are made at the time of the choice. The lower the motivation to make an optimal choice, the more likely an attitude-based choice will be made. For example, you have the Fuji 5 big camera hadn't performed as well as you expected, and you are going to exchange a new modern one. You are given experience and advice from two sources. Externally, your friend has the camera branded Olympus stylus on your left side. It's working so well and looks so sleek, cool, and good. And because the latest model, so it's really compelling to the young generations. And you firstly have the great impression with that models. And the second scenario, your parents also using the Kodak Easy Share. They want you to buy the new one like them, but in spite of working well, it looks rather large and bulky because, of course, these models toward the tradition, so it's so simple and not dynamic. So you less impressions than the first one. At the store, you both have the same values, but you choose the first scenarios. It means you choose the product your friends owning because you are at attitude based choice. And the final one is the attribute based choice. Attribute based choice completely different from the first two ones because it requires the knowledge of the specific attribute at the time the choice is made. It involves attribute by attribute comparison across the branch. This process is much more effortful and time-consuming process because the buyer have to make optimal decisions. They want everything at the best and they want to maximize the perfection of the products they are going to own in the upcoming times. And more accessible brand attribute information increases the likelihood that attribute-based choices are made. And most importantly, remember that three processes I mentioned above, attribute-based choice, attitude-based choice, and affective choice, should be used in isolation. Except the first two processes, the attribute-based choice requires the knowledge of the specific attribute during the time the choice is made. So it relies heavily on a comparison of the brand on one or more attributes. These attributes will be called evaluative criteria. Evaluative criteria considers as the various dimensions, features, or benefits a consumer look for in response to the specific problems. While function attributes are common, evaluative criteria can be also emotion and the reaction of important reference group members. To have you have the more broader understanding on the evaluative criteria, I just give you the simple example. Just on your daily products, especially your PC computers. Before purchasing computers, you might be concerned with the cost, speed, memory, operating system display, and warranties. These ones would be regarded as the evaluative criteria. And the nature of evaluative criteria is typically associated with the desired benefits. Evaluative criteria can differ in the type, number, and importance. The types of evaluative criteria a consumer use in the decision vary from tangible cost and performance features to intangible factors such as the style, taste, practice, feeling generated, and brand image. In general, evaluative criteria and their importance affect which brand consumer selects and how to measure evaluative criteria, normally it's extremely hard to determine which criteria consumers are using in a particular brand choice decision. Particularly if emotion or feelings are involved. To do that, the marketing researchers can use either indirect or direct method of measurement. In terms of the direct method, is that the buyer are directly asked by the marketing researcher what criteria they're gonna use during decision making, and the marketing researcher will note what they say about the product and their attributes. However, the biggest disadvantage of direct method is emotion and feeling make consumers full of confusion in their determination. So, in some cases, this method full-ties useless. Indirect measurement techniques should protective techniques allow the respondent to indicate the criteria someone else might use. Someone else here will likely be a projection of the respondents. It also provides some insight, and another one is the perceptual mappings. Perceptual mapping consumers judge the similarity of alternative brands. Consumers simply rank similarity between all pairs of alternatives. And here's perceptual mapping of beer and brand perception. They make this just the similarity of alternative brand to make the best decisions. And the most popular indirect measurement is the conjoint analysis. In this practice, consumers are presented with a set of products or product description in which evaluative criteria vary.
So hello, next I will describe about the role of evaluative criteria in consumer judgment and marketing strategy. So as you have known about the evaluative criteria, so it's like when you have to buy a laptop, you will have to consider the price, the weight, and display clarity. And when you can decide which laptop, you will continue to decide about the quality. And this is about the quality, you might not be able to make the direct comparisons. Instead, the final one is you might rely on brand name, which brand name is more famous one, is more popular, and which brand is cheaper. So the role of the marketer is to have to make the consumer feel that they feel more persuasive to communicate about the brand benefits, and the type of evaluative criteria a consumer use in decision maybe varies from tangible cost and to the performance feature to intangible factors. So why tangible costs and intangible factors occur in here? For example, there are two advertising here, and the first one, the tangible the design their brand to be like tangible to make consumers easily understand, and the second one is the intangible art. They want to spread, they want to influence their consumers feeling, emotion, more than words, more than tangible benefit. So the role of the marketer is have to overcome these low quality perceptions, like when a consumer have to make the decision about which brand they should choose. That is the role of the mission of the marketer to develop, increase the quality of the brand perception to consumer. The second one is they have to develop and communicate appropriate brand to appropriate consumers to, and that's all.
In this part, we will summarize the 5 decision rules for attribute-based choice and their strategic relevance. When consumers judge alternative brands on several evaluative criteria, they must have some method to select one brand from the various choices. Decision rules serve this function. A decision rule specifies how a consumer compares two or more brands. 5 commonly used decision rules are conjunctive, disjunctive, lexicographic, elimination by aspects, and compensatory. The decision rules work best with functional products and cognitive decisions. Marketing managers must be aware of the decision rules used by the target market because different decision rules require different marketing strategies. First one, the conjunctive rule. This rule establishes minimum required performance standards for each evaluative criterion and selects the first or whole brands that meet or exceed these minimum standards. If the conjunctive decision rule is used by a target market, it is critical to meet or surpass the consumer's minimum requirement on each criterion. Second, the disjunctive decision rule establishes a minimum level of performance for each important attribute, often a fairly high level, which sets the performance standard very high and makes it hard for a brand to attain. All brands that meet or exceed the performance level for any key rule attribute are considered acceptable. When the disjunctive decision rule is used by a target market, it is critical to meet or surpass the consumer's requirements on at least one of the key criteria. Third, elimination by aspects rule. This rule requires the consumer to rank the evaluative criteria in terms of their importance and to establish a cutoff point for each criterion. For a target market using the elimination by aspects rule, it is critical to meet or surpass the consumer's requirements on one more in order of the criteria used than the competition. Fourth, the lexicographic decision rule requires the consumer to rank the criteria in order of importance. The consumer then selects the brand that performed best on the most important attribute. If 2 or more brands tie on this attribute, they are evaluated on the second most important attribute. This continues through the attributes until one brand outperforms the others. When this rule is being used by a target market, the firm should try to be superior to the competition on the key attribute. Fifth, and not least, compensatory rule. The 4 previous rules are non-compensatory decision rules because very good performance on one evaluative criterion cannot compensate for poor performance on another evaluative criterion. On occasion, consumers may wish to average out at some very good features with some less attractive features of a product in determining overall brand preference. Products and services targeting consumers likely to use a compensatory rule can offset low performance on some features with relatively high performance on others. However, it is important to have a performance level at or near the competitions on the more important features because they receive more weight in the decision than do other attributes. And to conclude, each decision rule yields a somewhat different choice. Therefore, marketers must understand which decision rules are being used by target consumers in order to position a product within this decision framework.